Foxy Lady, The Beginning, Part 3 of 3. Susan Brunell was shaking as she knocked 2 hard, 3 soft, and 2 hard raps on the door of the nondescript house in Ashland, New Hampshire. The house lay in the foothills of the White Mountains where I-93 and US 3 intersected. Today was the day. Today, Susie B. was to become a felon, a criminal, and an outlaw. Not bad for the daughter of 2 Quakers. Despite the mid-December date, Susie wasn't shaking from cold. The Chinese conspiracy theory, much ado about nothing global warming phenomenon had taken most of the nip out of New Hampshire's transition from late autumn to early winter. Susie was shaking from fear. Brought up to believe that the will of the people would be adhered to, she had been shocked to her core when all pretense of a government for and by the people seemingly evaporated overnight. State control superseded personal responsibility, and security had replaced liberty. Susie, like most Americans, had seen it coming, but had remained faithful to the convictions that the U.S. government was an agent for good, a belief that, unlike her insistence on nonviolence, had shattered. Susie reminisced as she waited for the door to open. She couldn't identify when a belief in nonviolence had eclipsed her belief in true pacifism, but she knew the date and place where she'd begun taking self-defense courses. The Northern Berkshire YMCA self-defense class had helped her to replace a conviction that pie-in-the-sky pacifism was the most moral path one could trod with a slow conversion to believing that while violence is seldom necessary, it must remain as an available option for defending oneself in the case of clear and present danger, and that it was not only far more pragmatic than true pacifism, but that it was likely even more ethical. Determined to make the plunge, a niggling voice inside her head repeatedly asked if taking a self-defense class would be a betrayal of her dead parents. The voice had caused her to hesitate in registering, but as she completed her online registration, Susie had whispered to herself, "Hey, just because I'm taking a class in self-defense, that doesn't mean I'm not a Quaker anymore." Technically, Susie's words to herself were true. But in reality, her venturing into a world where violence was frowned upon rather than prohibited did mean the end of her membership in the Church of Friends. And if the class hadn't spelled the end of her pacifism, then Henry Brewster, the class instructor, surely did. Henry was as dynamic as he was charismatic, and the two were soon tete-a-tete and mano-a-mano both vertically and horizontally. It was Henry who slowly radicalized Susie, bringing her from an angry, impotent protester to one who was willing to opt out all things safe space. On Halloween night, they laid in each other's arms, exhausted after a round of horizontal sparring. "So," he'd ask, "are you just going to fume about our totalitarianism vis-a-vis safe space, or are you going to do something about it?" "What does that mean?" Susie had responded, both hurt and angry. "I've signed the petitions, I've gone on marches, and I'm super vocal. What do you want me to do, get arrested?" "Opt out. I have friends in New Hampshire that are part of a militia. We're removing our trackers. We're going back to live free or die. I want you to come with me." Stunned, Susie didn't know what to say. "When?" she asked. "In the spring. Probably April. We're working on the logistics. Can may I think about this? I need details." "Of course. And you'll get them." "Ready for round 2? He asked, his eyebrows shooting up and down 3 times quickly. "You're a nut," she said, laughing before reaching beneath the sheets and saying, "I guess I'm up for it, and it's obvious that you are." Susie B. went from a pacifist protester to a Class A Level 1 federal felon. She'd only had 5 more weeks with Henry before he'd been arrested. Luckily for her, the month had been productive. Luckily for her, Henry had instructed her on what was needed to remove her chip without alerting the feds and introduced her to his brother-at-arms. Now, here she stood, ready to make the plunge and join the militia.